Dust Bowl's unease. Dust Bowl hadn't seen that much metal in one place since the wall memorial went up. The steel serpents roared into town like a pack of rabid dogs, chrome glinting under the harsh sun. Engines cut with sharp cracks, spitting fumes that hung heavy in the already stifling air. Doors slammed, boots crunched on the dusty main street, and the sudden silence was almost as unsettling as the noise had been. Viper, leader of the serpents, swaggered towards the general store, pushing past a woman clutching her child tighter. His leather jacket creaked with each step, a skull ring flashed on his finger as he tapped it against the counter. Blackwood Cemetery, he drawled, his voice a low rumble. Heard tell there's more than just bones buried out there. Treasure, maybe. The storekeeper, a gaunt man with eyes that looked older than dirt, swallowed hard. Blackwood ain't a place for living folk, mister. Especially not looking for something that ain't yours to find. A few townsfolk, drawn by the commotion, lingered near the door. Whispers rippled through the small crowd. The Guardians. Twins. Stay away. The words were barely audible, but Viper caught them. He smirked, a flash of gold teeth. Guardians, huh? Sounds like someone's been reading too many dime novels. He leaned closer to the storekeeper, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Tell me about these guardians, old man. Before I get impatient. He slammed a fist on the counter, making the storekeeper jump. The air thickened with unease, the setting sun casting long, distorted shadows across the dusty street. Legends of Blackwood. Blackwood. Even the name tasted of iron and ancient secrets. Decades ago, after the Great Fire of 52, the city had designated this overgrown patch of land a sanctuary for the unclaimed, the forgotten, those whose stories ended without fanfare. The earth here drank deep of sorrow, and whispered tales on the wind to those who listened closely. Kai, ever the stoic, adjusted the worn leather of his bracer. They defile more than just graves, Kenzo. They defile memory itself. Kenzo, restless energy thrumming beneath his skin, cracked his knuckles. Then let's remind them what happens when they forget respect. Their lineage was tied to Blackwood like ivy to a crumbling mausoleum. Generations of guardians, each pair twins, tasked with ensuring the cemetery remained undisturbed. Their grandfather had told them stories of grave robbers, cultists, and thrill-seekers, each met with swift, silent justice. Kai favored strategy, Kenzo, raw power. Together, they were an unbreakable wall. From their hidden vantage point amidst the tangled branches of an ancient oak, they watched the steel serpents rumble to a halt at the cemetery gates. Chrome glinted under the fading sunlight, engines coughed and died, leaving a silence heavy with menace. A dozen figures, clad in black leather and adorned with snarling serpent patches, dismounted. Kenzo shifted, eager to unleash the storm brewing inside him. Ready to play gatekeeper, brother? Kai's gaze remained fixed on the serpents. He noted the leader, a hulking figure with a chain wrapped around his fist. Patience, Kenzo. Observe. Know your enemy. Then, strike. The cemetery gates fall. Enough with the ghost stories. Viper spat, kicking a discarded oil drum. The rain plastered his thinning hair to his skull, but he didn't seem to notice. Blackwood's got more gold than sands buried beneath it. And we're gonna dig it up. He gestured to the steel serpents, their faces a mixture of apprehension and avarice. Tonight, we take what's ours. The roar of engines filled the night as the serpents snaked through the winding roads towards Blackwood Cemetery. Headlights sliced through the fog, illuminating the gnarled trees that clawed at the sky. A nervous energy crackled in the air, thicker than the exhaust fumes. Even seasoned thugs felt a prickle of unease as they approached the iron gates. Ram it! Viper roared over the engine's din, his voice laced with manic excitement. Diesel, a behemoth of a man behind the wheel of a souped-up pickup, grinned, revealing yellowed teeth. He slammed the accelerator, and the truck surged forward. The impact was deafening. Twisted metal shrieked as the ornate gates buckled and tore from their hinges. The sound echoed through the cemetery, a jarring violation of the silent stones. A section of the gate lay twisted on the ground, a mangled monument to the serpent's greed. Viper gunned his engine, leading the charge onto the hallowed ground, his laughter a harsh counterpoint to the mournful wind that whispered through the ancient tombstones. The desecration had begun. Guardians of the tomb. The steel serpents were not gentle. Chrome boots crunched on gravel paths, tearing up rose bushes planted decades ago. Viper, his face illuminated by the beam of his flashlight, kicked over a weathered headstone. "Where is it?" he snarled, the echo bouncing off the ancient mausoleums of Blackwood Cemetery. The old man said treasure. Jewels, gold. Something worth tearing this dump apart for. Kai watched from the shadow of the Blackwood family crypt, his face impassive. Kenzo shifted beside him, the faint scent of ozone crackling in the air. "They disrespect the dead, brother," Kenzo murmured, his fingers twitching. "Enough watching." They moved as one, emerging from the darkness like figures sculpted from the night itself. The serpents froze, their flashlights swinging wildly. Kai's voice, when it came, was low and steady. "This ground is sacred. You will leave." Viper laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "And who's gonna make us, pretty boys? You two look like you belong in a museum, not a fight." He spat on the ground near Kai's feet. "Think you can stop us? We heard about some old twins, guardians of this place. Fairy tales for scared kids." He gestured to his gang, who advanced, chains glinting under the moonlight. "Let's see how tough these guardians really are." A challenge accepted. Viper spat a wad of tobacco juice onto the cracked earth, dangerously close to a crumbling headstone. "So, you two fancy yourselves guardians, huh? Guardians of dust and bones. We're the steel serpents. We own this town, and soon, we'll own this graveyard too. Got plans for some renovations." He grinned, a flash of gold teeth in the dim light. "You think you can stop us? Look around. There's 20 of us, muscle and steel. What do you two have?" Kenzo's jaw tightened, the line of it hard and unforgiving. He could smell the cheap cologne and stale beer clinging to the bikers, a miasma of disrespect that burned in his nostrils. He balled his fists, the leather of his gloves creaking softly. Beside him, Kai remained still, an unreadable expression on his face, but Kenzo saw the subtle shift in his stance, the almost imperceptible tensing of his shoulders. Their eyes met, a silent conversation passing between them. It wasn't a question, not really. It was an acknowledgement. An understanding. A promise. Kenzo cracked his knuckles, the sound amplified in the stillness. "We have what it takes," he said, his voice low and steady. A ripple of laughter spread through the serpents. Viper, however, just smirked. "All right then, guardians. Let's see it." He gestured expansively. "The challenge is accepted. First blood wins. Or, first grave." They moved with a practice ease born of years spent training together. Kenzo loosened the chain he wore at his waist, its polished steel glinting in the fading light. Kai reached behind him, his fingers finding the familiar grip of the weighted staff strapped to his back. The air crackled with anticipation, the scent of ozone heavy on the wind. The battle was about to begin. The dance of shadows. The roar of engines became a cacophony as the steel serpents charged, a metallic wave crashing against the twins. Kai and Kenzo stood their ground, their eyes mirroring the flickering neon lights of the alley. "Show them what we're made of, brother," Kai murmured, adjusting the grip on his tonfa. Kenzo simply nodded, his katana already singing softly as it cleared its sheath. The first biker swung a heavy chain, aiming for Kai's head. Kai ducked under the blow, the chain whistling past his ear, and retaliated with a sharp jab of his tonfa to the biker's ribs. The man grunted, momentarily stunned. Kenzo, meanwhile, danced with deadly grace. A biker lunged with a rusty pipe, but Kenzo sidestepped, the pipe scraping against a brick wall. In one fluid motion, he spun, the katana blurring as it sliced through the air, disarming the attacker and leaving a shallow cut on his arm. Bikers fell, not in a bloody mess, but with precise incapacitation. A pressure point strike here, a dislocated shoulder there. Kai moved like a whirlwind, deflecting blows and delivering calculated strikes. Kenzo was a silent storm, his katana an extension of his will, carving a path through the chaos. The serpent's initial aggression faltered, replaced by a growing unease. This wasn't the easy fight they anticipated. Their brute force was useless against this dance of shadows. Viper's downfall. Viper spat a wad of blood onto the dusty ground, the metallic tang thick on his tongue. His steel serpents lay scattered, groaning, a broken mosaic of chrome and leather. Rage, hot and blinding, clawed at his throat. "Enough," he roared, snatching a thick chain from the nearest bike. The metal link sang as he swung it, a blurred silver arc aimed directly at the twins. Kai didn't flinch. He sidestepped the blow with impossible grace, the chain whistling past his ear. Kenzo mirrored him, deflecting another strike with a casual flick of his wrist. They moved like shadows, a dance of defiance Viper couldn't comprehend. He swung again, and again, each blow meeting only air or the cold resistance of their forearms. Their speed was unnerving, a whisper of wind around him. Frustration mounted, turning to a chilling fear. These weren't just guts, they were something else. Legends made flesh. He remembered the hushed whispers of the old-timers, tales of the twin tomb guardians, protectors of the sacred ground. He'd dismissed them as just stories. Then Kenzo moved. A blur of motion, too fast to track, and a sharp pain exploded in Viper's wrist. The chain clattered to the ground, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. He stared, dumbfounded, at his empty hand, then up at the implacable faces of the twins. He was disarmed, defeated. The legends, it seemed, were true. His reign, his power, all meant nothing against them. Retreat and warning. The sight of Viper collapsing, his chrome skull mask dented and askew, shattered the steel serpent's bravado. One by one, bikes sputtered and coughed, turning tail and disappearing into the night. Exhaust fumes hung heavy in the air, a pathetic shroud for their fallen leader. A few lingered momentarily, torn between loyalty and self-preservation, but the echoing silence of the cemetery, punctuated only by the drip of oil from Viper's wrecked machine, made their decision for them. Kai, katana gleaming under the pale moonlight, stood shoulder to shoulder with Kenzo. Their stillness was more menacing than any battle cry. They were twin statues carved from shadow and steel, guardians unyielding. No one dared approach to aid Viper. Kenzo stepped forward, his voice resonating with an unnatural depth that belied his youthful appearance. "This ground is consecrated." Kai completed the pronouncement, his voice a mirror of his brother's. "You have defiled it with your violence." Their voices, perfectly synchronized, echoed through the graveyard, amplified by the ancient stones. The sound was unnerving, less a human threat and more a pronouncement of doom. Return, Kenzo warned, his eyes burning into Viper's prone form, and you will face a fate far worse than defeat. The remaining bikers were long gone, the rumble of their engines fading into the distance, leaving Viper alone with the silent guardians of the cemetery. Peace restored. Viper sprawled in the dust, the setting sun bleeding across the cemetery, a canvas of orange and defeat. Greed and humiliation coated his tongue. Above, Kai and Kenzo stood like statues hewn from night, unyielding sentinels. No gloating, no insults, just that silent, oppressive watchfulness. He spat, trying to rid himself of the bitter taste. The steel serpents, or what remained of them, had already become a receding roar in the distance, a chaotic flight swallowed by the vast plains beyond Dust Bowl. They wouldn't dare return, not after this public thrashing, not after witnessing their leader, Viper himself, humbled by two men who fought like wraiths and struck like falling rock. From the fringes of the graveyard, faces emerged, townsfolk, tentatively emboldened by the sudden absence of roaring engines and veiled threats. They tracked the disappearing taillights, then their glances flickered back to the twins, guardians over the silent stones. A collective exhalation swept through the gathering observers, a shared sigh of relief. Kai shifted, a subtle movement that nonetheless sparked a fresh ripple of unease. Go home, his voice, a gravelly rumble, cut through the stillness. Let the dead sleep. The crowd scattered, dissolving into the encroaching shadows. Silence descended once more, thicker now, heavy with a newfound reverence that verged on terror. Dust Bowl was quiet again. The legend of the Black Twin Tomb Guards, protectors of the deceased and a warning to the lawless, was no longer mere fireside lore. It was carved into the earth by skidding tires, and branded onto the wounded pride of a biker gang chieftain. A fragile peace had settled, the kind underpinned by raw fear and the chilling certainty that some boundaries are best left uncrossed.